Hey, what's up guys? The PC version of MK11 finally got the patch just a few days ago, so I just got around to messing around with the changes for Kollector. This is going to be a quick video of my thoughts on the changes, and what I think it'll do for Kollector in the grand scheme of things. Just to preface, I actually didn't think Kollector really needed all that many buffs prior to this patch. I thought that he was just on the cusp of being pretty solid, and a lot of what I was hoping for actually didn't get changed. That said though, let's jump into reviewing what did get changed. The first patch note is that Vial of Sorrow now does 15 damage per tick, which was 20, but the duration is now 4 seconds, and it was 2 seconds. It also had its hit region adjusted. So overall, Vial of Sorrow is a little bit stronger in terms of actual damage output, but realistically, you're probably not going to get all of those ticks, so you're probably doing less damage with it, but it's also easier to apply pressure with it since it lasts twice as long. If you actually do manage to get all of the ticks, it goes up from 80 damage to 90 damage, so a minor increase, but the hit region is a lot bigger now, and the duration of it is longer, which means you can actually set multiple of these down, and it actually works. Following that up, we have Bag Bomb Explosion when connecting with Vial of Sorrow Flames has increased combo damage scaling and has had its hit region adjusted. So this patch note is kind of weird. So they increased the combo damage scaling because of new combo opportunities that we'll get to in a little bit, but the bigger part of this is that its hit region was adjusted. If you ever messed with this prior to this patch, you would know that its hit region was pretty small. Now it's a lot bigger and you can actually land this probably a little more reasonably, but realistically you're probably not going to be landing this all that often still. Still, it's a nice change and it's good buff. Next up, we have Demonic Mace Startup is now 29 frames, which was 34, and it now has 3 levels of charge that causes increased block stun the longer it is held. So Demonic Mace was pretty bad prior to this patch. I don't think this change is going to make it all that much better, but canceling into it out of strings that are blocked is probably a little bit better now. It kind of frame trapped before if your opponent wasn't quick enough to react and push a button, and now it's only going to be harder to react to it. Still though, it's not exactly safe on block, but the pushback makes it kind of safe on block. I don't know, Demonic Mace just isn't really part of my game plan as Kollector most of the time, and I don't think that this changes it. Personally, I would have rather seen Demonic Mace's maximum level of charge be unblockable, just because when are you ever going to land a max level charge? But I guess that might be a little too strong. Next up, we had Damned Bola's hit region reduced outside of a combo, and while opponent is in a combo, the hit region is increased. Now, this patch note was kind of weird because I couldn't think of very many times that Damned Bola's hit region was a problem for me inside of combos. And the one time that really always came up was when you were at maximum range and hit a forward 1-2, but this doesn't seem to affect that in any way whatsoever. So the only thing that I've really found with this patch note that I've tested is that you can land a pretty close to maximum range standing 4 into Damned Bola now, and that is pretty good, especially as a whiff punish, but other than that, I don't know that this changed anything for Kollector. Next up, we have his 1-3 string. It has 1 more active frame, 1 less frame of recovery on miss, and has had its hit region adjusted. So for my testing, obviously the active frame and 1 less frame of recovery on miss is great, and the hit region adjustment is probably the biggest buff here. It's a lot easier now to land it after you've already launched an opponent, and that just makes it easier to combo into Damned Bola. However, it does make it slightly harder to combo into Shodal Fury, but we'll get into that later. Next up we have his 2 into the 1+3 string. It has more combo damage scaling, but now it can be cancelled into Fatal Blow. So, one of my biggest problems when I was playing Kollector at locals was that I literally just couldn't find a way to get into Fatal Blow when I got it. Yeah, you could probably just do a forward 1-2 Bola into Fatal Blow, but realistically, if you were landing that forward 1-2, it's probably not that much worse damage to just not use the Fatal Blow there. So, now with this new cancel, it's a lot easier to land a Fatal Blow, and it gives you more combo route options. Next up we have his back 2-3-3. It had its hit region adjusted. As best I can tell, this just doesn't really seem to do much. I can't figure it out. I think it might anti-air slightly better, but like, I don't think anyone was purposely using it like that, so I don't know what this change is. You really don't use the string all that much. I don't know. Couldn't figure this one out. If you guys have any idea, let me know in the comments below. Next up, we got his 3-2 string. The crushing blow recovery has been adjusted. I really kind of hate vague patch notes like this. I cannot tell you what this means. It feels exactly the same to me. You still get the exact same follow-up as far as I can tell, and it just feels pretty similar to me. Next up, we have a change for his back 3. It had its hit region adjusted. This is one of the ones, again, it's kind of a vague patch note, but I actually think that this might have been a nerf. From playing in some casuals with some friends and locals and stuff like that, from what I can tell, it anti-airs slightly worse on the first hit now. I can't really give you a reason as to why this is the case. It does feel like that to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do think that the hitbox is just slightly worse. Moving on, we have his forward 3. It can now be canceled on normal block and miss. So if you played Kollector previous to this patch, you would know that his forward 3 strings were not usable on block or miss. It was sort of like an automatic hit confirm for you. Now it can actually come out on block and on whiff. So if you've built in that muscle memory where you just click it all in and hope that it hits, you might want to stop now because it is not safe on block anymore. And if you whiff, it's a lot worse. So this is kind of a weird one. I'm not really sure what this all does for Kollector. It might improve his forward 3 game so that people don't want to push buttons right afterwards because it was their turn if they blocked it. And now maybe it still is their turn, but you could continue the string and potentially hit them. It's kind of weird, but overall it's okay. It also has a different hit reaction when connecting with an airborne opponent, and it kind of just seems like it just hits them a little bit further back from you now. Overall, it's kind of okay as a change. I actually preferred the automatic hit confirm aspect of this, and I'll definitely have to get used to not using it that way. Next up, we have his standing 4. The cancel frame is 1 frame later. The recovery's been reduced by 6 frames on hit and block. The block stun's been decreased by 5 frames, and it had its hit region adjusted. So, as far as the hit region is concerned, I still can't tell a difference. It's still a pretty good poke, it always was, and that doesn't really change. The cancel frame being 1 frame later, I'm unsure of why that needed to be changed. Doesn't really seem to do too much, but it's not exactly a bad change. Like I mentioned earlier, you can combo this into Damned Bola now thanks to a different change, so I don't think it's related to these changes, but maybe it is. Next up is his 4-4 string. The startup is now 23 frames, which was 26, and the hit reaction when connecting to an airborne opponent has been changed. The recovery on hit and block has been reduced by 1 frame, the recovery on miss has been reduced by 6 frames, and it's had its hit region adjusted. So as far as the hit region adjustment on this one, I think it just works better as an anti-air. Again, I don't think anyone's been using it that way, but if it happens to land, it's okay. The hit reaction now does not pop them slightly up when you do it. Instead, it just knocks them straight to the floor. So you do not want to follow this up with the 4-4-3 string, which we'll talk about in a second. Overall, this change doesn't seem all that crazy. The startup being quicker is cool. Doesn't really change too much. It does make it a little bit harder to flawless block and punish all this stuff, but overall, it's still pretty much exactly the same. So the 4-4-3 string startup is now 19 frames, which was 20. The damage scaling has been increased. The hit reaction has been changed. It can no longer be canceled. It recovers 15 frames slower on block, 10 frames slower on miss, and it has 10 less frames of block stun with less pushback. So I'm not really sure why they included all this other stuff about being slower on block and miss and the block stun, because this literally did not come out on any of those situations prior to this patch, but whatever. Doesn't really matter. They changed the frame data on it is all you really need to know. It is not safe on block. Prior to this patch, it did say it was plus on block, so I guess that's a change, but it didn't really come out on block, so it didn't matter. Anyway, there's 2 big things to talk about here. So when I first read this patch note, and I read it can no longer be canceled, I wanted to give up Kollector right then and there. This was one of the main ways that you would set up a Vial of Sorrow, and I just thought to myself, why would they nerf this? That is ridiculous. But I didn't realize what hit reaction changed had meant for this move. So I don't know why they didn't just write this in, but now the move actually pops your opponent up and extends combos for you. This is a significant change, probably the biggest change Kollector has in this entire patch. This opens up many more combo routes for Kollector and allows him to extend his damage at the risk of people being able to break away from the damage. So prior to this patch, Kollector's one big strength was that he had unbreakable damage. However, the damage was kind of low, but since it was guaranteed damage, that was the trade-off. Now, there's a little bit more play to it. Your opponent can break out of your longer combos and save themselves some damage at the cost of meter. This is a lot cooler to me. I think this is a great change. I didn't expect this change at all. It's going to take some getting used to, but man, the amount of damage that Kollector pushes out now is insane. This also gives him more combo routes in terms of openers and combo extensions. Overall, I'm really happy with this change, and I'm excited to see so many people pick up Kollector simply because of it. Next up, we have his down 2. It has 2 more active frames and 2 less frames of recovery on miss. So this is strictly a buff. I'm not really sure that his down 2 needed it. I thought his down 2 was one of the better down 2s in the game because of how he crouches down and he lowers his body so low to the ground in comparison to most characters. Still though, it's a welcome buff. Next up, we had his jump 2. Had its hit region adjusted. This is another one of those vague ones. As best I can tell, you still have to hit it really, really low to the ground in order for it to combo out of bolas and things like that. So I don't think this changed all that much. Maybe it made it a better air-to-air. I really can't tell. I thought it was fine as an air-to-air previously. So I don't know what the difference here is. And the final patch note, which is another big buff for Kollector. His get up 2 has been fixed. That's right, the hit region on it exists now, and you can use it to knock people out of the air finally. Yeah, so if you played Kollector previously, you know exactly what I'm talking about when you would do an up 2, and you would watch his mace just go right through someone's body and do nothing for you, and you ate an entire combo punish. Now, you can stop those people from freely jumping in on you. One thing to note though is that they did not change it so that the mace hits behind him, even though the animation does swing the mace behind him. So you can still whiff this on people's cross-ups even though it looks like it'll hit them. So those were all of the changes for Kollector. So what all do I think this did for the character? First and foremost, I think pretty much everything here was a buff. Almost every single patch note was definitely a welcome one. There were a few weird ones that I don't exactly know what the point of them are, but I'm sure NRS has their reasons. I think this will actually push Kollector into being a viable character for a lot of people's considerations. However, as a longtime Kollector player, I'm kind of disappointed to see that they didn't do some changes that the character really needed. Namely, fixing the forward 1-2 at maximum range not comboing into Bola. That is such a huge issue for him, and I can't believe it was not fixed in this patch. I thought the Dan Bola hit region patch note would have been addressing that, but it didn't whatsoever, and it still misses the combo at maximum range. So, kind of disappointed in that, but almost everything else seems pretty solid. I'll definitely have to get used to some of the things that were changed in this patch, such as the forward 3 string not being an automatic hit confirm, but I think overall I'm very pleased, and I think we'll see a lot more people playing Kollector soon. If you guys want to see more Kollector content, let me know what you guys want down in the comment section down below, and I'll try my best to get around to it. Thanks for watching.